Today we're going to do a sound design deep dive using Serum. So here's Serum, and what most people don't know right off the rip is you can create one shots. In the top left, there's a hidden icon. Go to the top left and just drag this into your playlist, for example. Let's do this again. You can create one shots of your waveform right there. So if you make a kick drum, you could just drag and drop it like that. So that's the first secret people don't know. Second secret about Serum is if you go to the global tab, you could change out the tuning. This will give you a very unique way to approach sound design because you'll get out of your typical routine of everything being at 440. You also have width knobs. Once you get into unison, you can pull your width. Instead of full stereo, you could pull it in a little more narrow for more power. We're going to get into the techniques. And lastly, these macros, people don't really use these a lot, as well as the key mapping and the velocity mapping. So let's create a quick sound here. Let's add some MIDI from our Beatmaker blueprint at busyworksbeats.com/beatmaker. We have a new Beatmaker blueprint, and inside I've created MIDI for you, so you don't have to worry about this. It's a motion-based MIDI that pulls on certain emotions. So let's start with the mystery emotion. We're going to drag that in, and let's turn this down. Okay, so that was our one shot. I didn't realize that was audio. Here's Serum. Turn this down. Okay, so the first thing we need to do with this is give it an envelope. So here we're going to set our low pass filter to move this knob over time. In order to move this knob, we need to add a filter, or excuse me, an envelope to that knob. So let's go to envelope 2, drag it to the filter cutoff point. Wherever the pointer is where the envelope ends. Let's add some decay curvature to the sound. Real sounds decay. You can mess with the range here, moving that blue area. Now what we'll also do is set the velocity over top of the cutoff filter. So depending on how hard we hit the keys, it will change that cutoff. And to change the curvature here so that every velocity doesn't trigger it, we're going to pull down this curvature. Now by default, FL Studio has everything pretty much at the highest velocity. So in this case, I'm going to lower the velocity. And you can see this curvature. Further you pull it down, the less it will act on the cutoff filter. Unless you really slam on the keys. So this is how you change the velocity curvature response. You could also set the note value, which is called key tracking, but you can click on this icon here to just click on key tracking. So depending on the note, it will determine where the filter is, but you can also map the cutoff filter over the note values, the MIDI note value, manually so that you can control the range. So that it doesn't just start all the way at the top. And then again, you could change that velocity, or the curvature, I should say. Let's add some effects, let's add some delay. So delay and reverb, we're going to widen our sound. Let's add some unison here to widen out the voices. This is going to add multiple voices as if these were people. And you could detune the sounds. Now let's say you want to take the sound to a different level. I'm going to up the buffer length so we can do a little more processing. Now what we're going to do is go to the warp area and let's say FM from B. So we can turn on oscillator B and turn the level off so we don't actually hear oscillator B playing, but it will modulate oscillator A. So now we can switch this to something like a sine wave and it will modulate this frequency here if we pull this knob up. Creates like that lasery, bitey tone. And the same thing here, we can drag our envelope over top. So it has a decay curvature. And this is how you get those different tones from staccato, spiccato. So another thing that people don't know is if you go to the matrix here, switch this to note on alternative, and then we're going to put this on left right mode. We're going to control oscillator A panning and then turn this up. So basically when you hit a note, and then we're going to do left right. So once you hit every other note, it pans left to right and it widens out the sound. And lastly, you can add some effects. Now, most people don't know you can add a compressor here. They usually keep it on compressor mode. If you put it on multi-band mode, you get the OTT sound. Makes it like EDM sounding. Okay, now what we're gonna do is build a bass. Let's take the same chord progression. We're gonna clone Serum. We're gonna start from scratch, but build out a bass. Now this performance is very heavy. It's very full. So we need to simply make sure that we're only adding bass notes here, not copying all the notes. So all the bass notes are kind of arranged differently. So I'm gonna move stuff out the way. I'm gonna get rid of all this. So I'm just taking that bottom note, only the bottom note, and then we're gonna start from scratch in Serum here. Hit Control L, send it to a new mixer channel. Okay, so from here, we can now go inside the sound. We're gonna go to menu, initialize the preset to start from scratch. Now, when I'm in bass, I usually start with the sine wave to have the smoothest bassy tone. And you can lower the oscillator here. So you really don't need to do much with the sound. It just sounds full already. Remember not to overly do it, because if you overly do the harmonics of the bass, it will clash with the other sounds. So, but I'll show you a couple things you could do. What we could do is the same FM technique, oscillator B, turn the level down, go to the warp mode, FM from B. And that's how you get the UK sound. And it just adds a cool sound. So let's add a little attack to add some emotion here. Drag that over top of FM. Pull your range in. So let's mess with the attack. Then we want it to decay. And also we can up the voices here. So now it feels like it's moving. Also, if you go to the effects, go to filter and turn up your cutoff. There's a drive knob here that adds a nice boost to the bass. All right, so now we have the bass, we have the main performance. Now let's swap out the top line melody with a different instrument. So this is where the melody begins. So I'm going to take all these notes here, move them to a different instrument. Let's go to Serum. All right, and we're going to go to the piano roll, hit Control V. We're going to send this to a new mixer channel. Let's add this into the playlist so we can start to see our project. And now we need to go in and start changing out things. So let's turn this sound down. So what are some things we could do with this top sound? We want to add legato, so notes pitch bend. We want delay reverb. I usually start with what does the sound do, and then I go back and chisel out the actual sound. Let's add some dimension here. We're moving a little quicker here because it's not mandatory. Let's add some dimension. It's going to add like a room effect, like it's in a space. Let's add another oscillator here. Let's do basic shapes and switch this to a sine wave. And just set an LFO over the phase. There's not going to be much clashing with a sine wave and a sawtooth. If you switch this to a sawtooth, there will be more clashing. So I'm going to make this fast. Now at this point, I'm just being creative with the sound. There's no right or wrong way to do what I'm about to do. Let's FM from beat. Now we're getting a really unique texture. We could add some noise in here. Let's switch this to analog. Blend that into a filter. I'm moving really quick here. Let's go to distorted comb filter. And we can add movement to this filter with an envelope. Okay, let's drag that over. Okay, we need this to decay. We want all the sounds, A, B, and the noise to go through the filter. And because we have legato on, it doesn't re-trigger the notes for mono. And you can mess with that comb filter. Let's do a really slow moving LFO so that changes the tone over time. Okay, so all these combine. Let's see what OTT would sound like over top of this. It's a free plugin. And let's start shaping this here. It's a little bright. Let's go to our matrix. Whenever you have too many things modulating, I like to go to the matrix. Just gonna dull out the chords a little bit. Okay, let's start arranging this so it's not everything playing at once here. We're going to do the bass in the chords and then just do the bass in the lead. And I think that will be our two sections here. Now let's get into like percussive sound design. I'm not going to make this video super long. If you want to learn more, we have a sound design course. I teach you how to make drum kits. I teach you the really hardcore stuff about sound design from the ground up. So if you truly want to take this further, we can do that. I'm going to move a little bit quicker here because this is going to take the most time. So let's just build a simple kick and we'll have this kick sidechain our chords. So let's loop this and let's do this. Let's do pattern 4. I know I'm moving really quickly on the screen. But my goal is simply to have 4 to the floor kick, and that will sidechain our chords here. So let's find our chords. We're going to add fruity limiter. Go to the compressor mode. We need to go to our kick, which is on here. Right click sidechain to the actual thing we want to duck in volume. Go to the fruity limiter, compressor mode, right click, select your kick as the input, lower your threshold, and then up your ratio. And now every time that kick hits, it will lower the volume. So now we need to shape the kick and move a little bit quicker here. So in short, we're going to give the pitch envelope a decay curvature over the coarse pitch and shorten this. And you can also widen the range for more of a lasery type sound. We need to give the main sound a decay curvature. And And now we need to give it tone, so let's add some FM. And we need to give that tone a shape, so let's... Okay, we can also add filtering and movements in the filter. Okay, so from here, you want to run into different processing. So to keep this video super short, I like the T-Rax Classic Clipper. It's really good for getting saturation out of your drums. Just pushing the kick in and then lowering the output. Gotta be careful not to shave off too much of the kick. So depending on this decay curvature, you get different types of kicks. If you want a trap kick, you would shorten this decay curvature. So shorter kicks get shorter decay. Let's add an envelope over the cutoff. It's a little lasery with this envelope. Now we're setting what's called the destination frequency. It's a little low, but you can add some noise in here too to thicken up the sound. Lower the pitch of the noise. And then lower the level. Okay, so from here you can try different compression, distortion. There's 1,000 things you can do from this point. The main thing is the pitch envelope for the punch. Going heavy into the soft clipper. I'm going to pull that back. Let's try some hard clipping instead of soft clipping. This gives it more of a square tone. Now let's set our sidechain here. Make sure this is turned on. All right, so if you want to learn more about the sound design, go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. I'll give you, what can I give you? I'll give you some Serum presets in the Dropbox folder once you sign up. Go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. I'll see you guys on the other side. Peace.